Hello everyone! Time to talk about Cecilia and my updates on the Tempest Trial GHB Grill Upgrade tier, however the fuck you want to call it. So, let's start by talking about Cecilia, of course. Alright, so she comes with Goody Boots, which is actually a pretty good dagger and kind of just shits all over the Rogue dagger. Kind of strange, but eh. Attack Res Bond, which is, in my opinion, I'd say the second best bond. Only second to Attack Def Bond. And it's given at 4-star. Kinda wish it was on a worse unit than Cecilia, because Cecilia is actually pretty good. Goody Boots is basically glittering boots. Yes, this is what Fa Breath. No, Goody Boots is like glittering breath from Fa. As long as you have characters to range from you, or next to you, and it's the bond, you get an extra 2 def and res times the amount of people, up to a max of 6. All of that is pretty obvious. I really like that weapon, actually, and it really goes into our niche. It is kind of strange how we got Kagero as a green, and my first impression was just, if only you had been colorless, that would have actually been really cool. And then we get a colorless later down the line as a free unit that comes with a weapon that synergizes with the playstyle I had in mind, is not held back by color, and has a slightly, and I mean very slightly, better stat line overall. I mean, you don't see me complaining, do you? I also do like her because I really do like her design. There's just something I don't like about most of the Christmas unit. I think Erica is the main one I really don't like, just because her entire design is like, oh yeah, we're supposed to like be wearing clothes that are like heavy and warm because it's the winter, and then you have her in a miniskirt with nothing covering her arms in the middle of winter. That doesn't feel like the kind of outfit I would like to see. And then you have Cecilia over here that is basically fully covered. Actually looks better in my opinion than Erica. I'm actually pretty happy with this because base Cecilia looked stoned as fuck, and now she doesn't. So yeah, she is a pretty solid unit. So let's move on to comparison, because I was already kind of comparing stuff. Her kit is very basic: Deploy, Attack Res Bond, all of those skills. We've seen them before outside of Goody Boots, so let's talk about this. So the last dagger unit we've got was, outside of Hilliger, was someone throwing bottles, and now we have someone throwing boots. I mean, I guess that makes sense. So, alright. She essentially has the same attack as Jacob, 30-36 instead of 33-32, so Jacob has a better mixed bulk, but that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. They both would run Attack Def Bond on a, defensive set, with a Def Refine for Cecilia, Res Refine for Jacob, so you end up with 38-35 for Jacob and 38-36 for Cecilia, while tied in attack. Now, keep in mind, this is not considering a Boon or Bane for Jacob, so Jacob can actually be better, obviously. He has 1 more HP, and essentially Cecilia has 1 more res. So, when it comes down to it, Jacob has more option. He has Bullfighter, Slaying, of course. Not Slaying, Bullfighter, Brave Bow, of course. That is the most cancerous set he can run, especially with Quicken Pulse and Bonfire, or Ostian Pulse, whatever, you get the idea. I won't list all the combo you can make this work with, because then you can proc Bonfire twice in the combat. And then you have Kagero that basically breaks the stat line in 2 and makes it just straight up better, except she's green. And then you have Cecilia, who's actually colorless and can actually make use of this. You see, I can understand this type of tactic of making a stat line slightly better but a different color. Because if it's something like Grima, right, who's not armored, okay, then yeah, it makes sense. But when they are already armored, you can already have enough bulk that colorless is just straight better than having a color. So Cecilia is better on that regard. And I'll be completely honest, green is a terrible tanking color. With Zelgius, Ira, etc., this is extremely terrifying for Kagero, who, while somewhat bulky, is not that bulky. So Cecilia is a bit better on that regard. It is true Jacob can beat her overall in offense, but when it comes down to defense, aka goody boots, I'm sorry, Cecilia will do better. And also, unless you have an attack plus Jacob and you invest on a plus 10 Jacob, there's really no unit you can truly compare to her that would be actually better. And that's already a big if, you know, because you need to have good IVs and you need to have 11 Jacob to be straight up better than Cecilia. So, yeah, Cecilia is pretty good. Actually, really, really good. I'm pretty surprised that, like, I saw Cecilia there, I saw she was a dagger, I was like, oh, it's over, there's no way she's gonna be good, which is a shame, because I really liked her art, and turns out she's actually one of the best TT GHB unit to invest in. Quite strange, isn't it? So, yeah, also, there's also this point that's worth mentioning. She's basically equal to Jacob, a neutral one anyway, in every way. Except, she does the saying said better than Jacob for one reason. She also debuffs everyone around her, which is really good if you combo into Rid, for example, who really love those buffs, or any other characters. Guntra is also a really good example of this. If you can run Smoke Dagger on her instead of Goody Boots, and then you debuff everything by 7, which gives Guntra a bonus 28 attack with you know, her Blizzard, which is extremely good because she has the bulk to sustain it too. She doesn't end up having the same problem as Soph, where he needs to run Wind and Water Sweep and hope for the corresponding unit to show up and for him to actually have enough speed to, you know, hit the target without getting shred to pieces. Yeah, that's kind of the problem that every non-Cecilia dagger runs into, if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, the fact that she debuffs is really good. Hell, if anything, you can just run attack smoke as her C and speed smoke as her seal, and you can still run Barb Shuriken, which is insane because if you run Ignis Bullfighter, you'd straight up proc Ignis, and then on top of that you debuff everything around the target. It is pretty solid. The one issue she runs into is movement, but that can be pretty well remedied if you have someone with Armor March on the team. So, yeah, just thought I'd point that out. Let's move on to the tier list. There is more than just Cecilia added to the tier list, of course. I had to update Navarre and Robin. So, yeah. Also, please do tell me how the background looks. This is completely experimental and I want to know how people feel about them. So, alright. I have a build for both Cecilia, Robin, and Navarre. Of course. Robin went up from B to A because of her pref and refine. I'll be honest, it's a good refine attached to a shit weapon that really has outlived its utility. Now, I guess you can actually make the argument that, oh, it is good in Aether raids, but then if you end up running into a Braveland that run Cancel Affinity, your Raven Tome is dead. Suddenly. It's kind of a shame, really. Her tome is just a relic of the past, in my opinion. But, oh well, I guess it's just what it is. So, alright. Other than that, Navarre went from all the way from C to A+. Yeah. His weapon is pretty good. It is, in my opinion, kind of on par to Lonku, and makes him on par to Lonku. But, well, we'll talk about that in a sec. It's just... it's a really, really good weapon that sets up so many things that is kind of a problem for any other special Spiral characters. Setting up to get to the point until you get to... getting to the point where your setup pays off with AoEs or such is really difficult when it comes down to characters outside of Navarre, because you have to basically get the recharge in battle. And you can't really run something like Heavy Blade or Flashing Blade, because if you do, you're literally just wasting your time. Unless your name is Lewin. Lewin is a case by case because he doesn't have a cooldown -1 weapon. But, yeah. Other than that, well, Cecilia is gonna be our first colorless to be in S tier. I'm sorry if it looks kind of off. The tier list website I've been using, and actually that's the whole reason why the video has been a bit late. The website that I use for tier lists does not have the new units in them. So, yeah. Couldn't really do that, so I had to do it manually. So, again, sorry if it looks off. Let's talk about Cecilia, eh? She can really run up to 3 set. This is the main one that I would like to run myself if I were to, you know, blast her. Also, before someone says it to me in the comment, yes, I know Unit Builder did not upload the right stats. For whatever reason, Unit Builder said that she had 34 res for some reason and 26 speed? Huh? So yeah, the speed and res were off, so I manually corrected it. Good boy Riss has the same speed and res as her, so it was pretty easy. So, alright. As you can see, Goody Boots here is really broken. With Attack Def Bond, that's 48-46, and if you have 3 characters in the general vicinity of Cecilia, well, that's 54 defense and 52 res. This is extremely bulky, and the only thing that can really be threatening at that point is... how do you call this? Specials. I'm stupid, apparently. Like Black Luna will completely shred her in two. I have a second set that's mainly to remedy to this, but yeah, this is just a good example of a tanky set if you want one. Moving on to a very highly damage dealing set. Also, all of these are in mixed teams, because typically Cecilia's best team comps are going to be one of 2 things: mixed or 4 times armored. Surprising basically no one. If you're in a 4 times armored team, just remove the attacks def res and just add an extra 12 or 8 def res, and there you go. It's basically what you'd be hitting. But yeah, on this set I run Attack Def instead of Attack Def Bond, because when you're not tanking, when you're on the offensive to attack, it's always better to have something that does not rely on having too many people around you, especially since the weapon is not reliant on this. So yeah, it's kind of pointless for me to just go out of my way to run Attack Def Bond at that point. Plus, I only get an extra 3 attack and defense, which, mind you, can help here and there. But the setup for it is kind of a bit too difficult. Now, if you feel like you're going to do well without it, that's fine. Attack Def Bond is fine then. I'm just giving an option for, you know, the typical player. So this set hits 67 attack, or 70 attack if you run the Attack Def Bond. And procs Ignis. There's very little that actually live this. Thank God for Barb Shuriken, by the way. Kaze, no one will forget you. But yeah, it's a really good character. Like I said, she can basically do it all. The main thing is, like I said, it's going to be reliant on getting either Bold, Vengeful, or Special Fighter. Special Fighter is a bit shaky, but it's meant to be mostly defensive. So as you can see, I'm running this here. You can also keep the Vengeful set and ditch your weapon for Bottled Juice, which is Kagero's weapon, of course. This is a good option if you are afraid of specials. It's just Infinite Guard, which basically would be the same thing as Special Fighter here, except Special Fighter here, well, by the time you get to hit you'll get to hit your second hit. You're going to have either Aether already charged and proccing it, or it will charge up Aether for the next fight, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. The problem with this set is you give up Attack Def Bond, so again, if you have Bottled Juice, you can run Vengeful Fighter, Attack Def Bond, and there you go. This is another option. Other than that, I also want to give a special shout out to Sorcery Blade. If you run a mage on the same team that she is, that is a fantastic weapon. A skill, because it allows you to hit your enemy's res, while a lot of enemies have a lot of defense but not enough res. So yeah, just thought I'd point that out. Moving on to Robin, I actually feature a set now for her. That's pretty basic, really. I'm making her as much of a tank as I can, because she's meant to be a support unit with this set. So drive depth, drive attack, chill attack with tactical tone. For defense, res can be switched to Fury. Really, that's all up to you. I'm just putting Fortress Def Res as a solid option for tanking purposes. I will say one thing though, and that thing is Grain Duel Infantry is literally the one reason that makes her somewhat relevant if you want to have a, you know, a buff spectrum character that scores high. So Titania is out of the question. Robin is a good pick. If you go out of that bubble, yeah, no, sorry. Especially since Titania can run Rally Attack Up Plus with Speed Tactic, Def Tactic, and then Res Tactic Weapon Refine. Yeah. She can just buff everything by 6. So it kind of ends up being pretty pointless is the problem. But, like I said, if you're going to go for an arena cheerleader, she's got your back. Moving on to Navarre, the comparison has shifted a little since he has an extra 2 attack, but as you can see, he is just overall inferior to Lonku, of course. But the weapon he has allows him to do some AoE shenanigans, which is the reason I say they are about tied in utility. So, let's move on to said utility, eh? This is an AoE set. I don't think any of you are surprised by the concept. Any people that are really into Navarre probably realize this was his best set now. I will say though, something you can also do is run Sorcery Blade. Now this is a gimmicky set, mind you, but if you do this and you run Attack Def Bond with someone having Infantry Pulse, Odin's a great character for this because he hits a lot of health. And on top of that, well, if you run swap, that's an extra 6 attack, 6 speed. That's the attack covered for, you know, AoEs. Because AoE is considered only your attack on the map, not your attack in battle. So Brazens are out of the questions. So Odin is a perfect team partner for him. Buffing him up, infantry pole's getting the special ready, opening up his seal slot so he can run attack dev bond in tandem with sorcery blade. He does lose 5 attack as a result though, so he hits only 57 attack. However, hitting instead of, you know, hitting defense, you're hitting res, so that's a gimmick that pays off. Just thought I'd mention that because this is just the basic best set. Though again, if you have infantry posts, you have the seal slot open. It's kind of a problem that Navarre has this much health, honestly. Because infantry posts becomes hard to proc, but it's not impossible. So yeah, this concludes my update for the Tempest Trial and GHB tier list. As always, if you have something to add to the comment, do so. Oh, and I would like to know if people would be interested in seeing some of my Aether raid defenses. You know, whenever I get an Aether raid defense, that's actually kind of funny to show off. Obviously, that would not happen too often. I have already recorded the first one, but just thought I'd ask before I you know, put it public, or if no one cares, it's just gonna stay unlisted. But, yeah. Other than that, have a nice one, y'all.